Who thinks they could do a lot better at their job? That their line is too low? Okay? So if you're actually entering into the cooperative relatable field of your job, then over a period of time, your capacity to do that job increases, and you feel more satisfaction from your job. That's how it works. Satisfaction only comes through increased capacity to do the job better, to do the task better. That's the only way you get it. There's no other way. All this fulfillment you're trying to look for and you think enlightenment's going to give it to you, it doesn't come from there. It comes from doing your best. So if everybody raised their hand and said they could do better, well, why not? Just try it. Try to do better. And if you try to do better, you're going to feel more satisfaction. And you won't mix up satisfaction and pleasure with enlightenment anymore. You will know that enlightenment is another depth, is something else than satisfaction. So do whatever you want. But don't do it from ego. Do it from being informed, like I was telling James, by your death. So you're going to die. This body mind's going to die. Whatever you really are is neither living nor death. What is it? Consciousness. But be informed, as you're still identified with a separate one that's going to die. Be informed by your death, not by your ego. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you have an impulse towards something, do it. But not from the ego point of view. The ego point says, if I do this, I'll be special and I'll be smarter than Margaret and I'll be better looking than so-and-so. It's all about self-reference, but there's no satisfaction in any of that. So if you try something and say, well, I'm just going to die anyways, try this, I've always liked it, I'm going to do it. Then, once you do it, it informs you if you want to do it again, right? And then it informs you some more. If the attraction doesn't leave, then you want to do it again. As long as it doesn't really hurt anybody or degrade anybody, then you find out something. What are you going to find out?
Whether it's satisfying or not. Whether
That's
it moves
right.
forward or not.
Yeah, it moves forward or it's satisfying. So if you live a life where you tried maybe you tried 15 things and 10 were very satisfying and you continued to do that, that would still be more than 10 things that most people are doing. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how that works. So is it possible to be satisfied in this life? Even though there is suffering? Yeah, you can be satisfied. But you're going to have to be informed by your death and not your ego. The ego, on the other hand, says, well, I was thinking about doing this, and goes around and tells everybody, and everybody says, oh, you should do it, and then it tries a little bit, and doesn't see all the compliments happening, doesn't get any status, it's just trudging along trying to do something, and it goes, why should I do this? Nobody cares. That's the ego trip about whatever you're attracted to. See, so the ego will say, well, don't do it then. So the ego always talks you out of everything. So you have a life that's, like you said, mediocre. You show up from work, do the least amount possible. You know you could do better, but you don't. You come home, you complain about it, and you feel like, oh, I'm so stressed out. Because you're stressed out because you don't have any of the satisfaction of anything you've done. You're just looking for your ego to be fed by whatever you're doing. And like I said to you, Pat, you've been a social worker and you seem to care about the downtrodden people and how to create a better circumstance for everybody and opportunity, but you don't really study it. You don't really look at it and say, what's happened this week with that? What am I doing? Do I have any ideas that I could look into and try to follow them? You just look like, well, what does Mary think of me this week? What does so-and-so think? How's my boss doing? Right? So you're thinking of yourself all in terms of being satisfied or succeeding in terms of your social order or connection, your apparently social order and connection, rather than what are you attracted to and how does that inform you? So if you were going to die, would you really care what your boss thought about you? Would you care about how well you're doing at the job? So everybody wants to do their job better and change something that makes it better for everybody else. You agree?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you don't want personally, but in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then everybody complains how sucky so-and-so is, or the boss. But what are you doing to actually bring about that change? So you talk about so-and-so's ego or immaturity or their lack of skill or ability, and you can complain about that. But what are you doing by being there for 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years that creates anything different that everybody benefits from? What are you doing? Right? Okay, so the whole world is primarily living through an ego trip and an ego identity, which says, what do I get? How do I look? Am I, do people look up to me? Am I getting recognized? So no one's looking at, well, you live this life, runs out after a while, and obviously between birth and the end, you have to do something. You have to trust somebody, and you have to do something. So what is it that I'm willing to be myself and do? Not be a part of another group who tells you how to do it. What am I willing to do to be myself in this? So the only way you get satisfaction is to be informed that you only have a limited amount of time and then you die. And so what would you want to do, or what would you want to do in any given day, that as the day appears, what kind of decisions are you making when something appears? When something you see you're attracted to and you don't walk up that hill because it's going to involve a little walk. Or you hear a song in your head and you don't go to the guitar because that, again, you're a little tired and it's going to involve something. So how do you get the satisfaction that you're looking for?
You have to do those things.
You have to follow those things. So you can't be the person that says, well, I believe that a government is a good idea and can create positive and good change for people, and that the country can improve because of it, but all I'm going to do is criticize everybody who's running, that their ideas or what they're doing isn't good enough. Well, what's your ideas? Instead of saying, well, what is so-and-so's idea who's running, I think people should ask, what are my ideas about what could work and what's good, and what am I doing now within my own relatable field that is part of that? So if I believe that everybody should have an opportunity for this thing, then I know 3 people, I should help them have that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Instead of putting it all in the hands of some figure who's running for it as their career, which they probably know something about it because that's their career. But how do you get to know something about it? You do what you can in your circumstance. And if you just have, impulse in the social service arena, that's where your impulse is. If it's in a creative field, that's where your impulse is. Not everybody has to duplicate everybody else's field or be a part of that. But the same kind of learning how to be informed by your death and how to achieve satisfaction by you being the one who comes up to something and changes things for yourself and other people. Not you complaining about other people and judging other people and their mistakes or their laziness or selfishness, but you. How do you do it? So say, well, I don't care about enlightenment. I don't really care about changing the world or anything like that. So how would you do that for yourself? Well, I'm going to meditate more deeply each day. I'm not going to leave my meditation till I feel that I've given it really my best. That's one thing. And then if you're with somebody else who says, well, that's what I'm interested, but I'm interested in serving the guru that way, then they have to be able to come forward and be sensitive to me. Really sensitive, and really get to know what real service is. So the person who wants to meditate, somebody says, well, I really just care about enlightenment too, and I want to be able to meditate and locate myself as consciousness and not as this mind and this ego I. Let's talk about meditation, how we're doing it. Are we doing it that way every day? Let's call each other on it. Let's not bullshit each other and say these wonderful things aren't true, but let's really say, wow, how deep is it going? Are you with Santosha in your heart? Mayor Baba used to say, It said, I am free, but I am bound in your heart, in you. And what did he mean by that?
You hold him there, he said.
Yes, that he's with you as you are, but you are binding it because you are interpreting him, who you are, through the mind, through a separate vehicle, identity. All right? So, again, if you were to be informed by your death and say, well, why don't I try that, see where it goes? Say you have a really strange idea for how to create a landscape. And you go, geez, but I'm really attracted to it. Well, you go out in your yard and do the best with it you can with it. And then you look at it and say, this is kind of cool. It's not great, but it's kind of cool. And I'm glad I did it, and I want to try something else. There you keep going. You keep going. Then one day I might say to you, this area in the yard, it just needs something. You got any ideas? And you go, well. And then you really have a real idea and a real capacity to work at it and a real capacity to do your best with it now, right? But if everything, you say, well, that's the least amount I can do and look spiritual, or I'm too spiritual to do anything, or I'm going to say just walking is spiritual, what are you doing?
Fooling yourself.
Yeah. Why fool yourself? Why do you want to fool yourself of your own spiritual understanding or your own impulse? So, I say, well, you came here because you had an impulse towards enlightenment. So where's that impulse? Why doesn't that dominate and this is the central point of your life? Why is it only kind of there and secondary to, did you see that guy? Wow, and I want to go be with him, have sex with him, or this or that. Why is it never the central thing that informs all your decisions?
It has to be basically all your actions.
Yes.
Then
That's why my sadhana was one that was fulfilled in enlightenment, because it did. Every decision, everything, every opportunity that came along was informed by that. How does this relate to enlightenment, to the process of enlightenment? Not to, well, you sit down and meditate a few minutes each day, maybe you make me an apple pie or something, and that covers that. And the rest of your life is what? You're seeking for your ego, and your ego did you notice you can never be satisfied? Ever? Ever, ever. In fact, you get less satisfied, worse, crazier, more ridiculous, more unrelatable, more impossible, that you live in a field of fantasy when it comes to your life and how you're relatable. You think everybody likes you, and then everybody in the whole town's saying, God, that person's impossible. And you don't believe it, and you don't know it's even happening. And you can't see it. How can you get to a place where you can't see what's going on? Because that's how the ego is. It creates a fantasy, and it doesn't allow what is going on in the relatable field and the field of experience to really change anything about it. But if you were to be informed not by your ego and its fantasy of that you're always the innocent special one, no one gets you, but if you really are informed by your death, you'll say, well, why not do this? I'm just going to die. And you are just going to die. From the point of view that you're still living at, you're just going to die. You're not going to be free. You're not going to be enlightened. You're just going to die and have to come back and be identified as ego once again. And be a fearful ego, a scared ego, one that won't generate, one won't be relatable, one that won't grow and develop. So be informed by your death and not your ego. Whenever you talk yourself out of anything that seems good to you, that's ego. Pat, you used to sit in your head and talk yourself out of millions of things all the time. Ego. As soon as you say, all right, okay, I'm getting up and I'm going to do this, and you start doing it, and you flop around, you figure things out, it gets going, you get frustrated, but in the end, you still have something. And you go, oh, I can do something more with that. That's not ego. That's you living in your life. Because if something comes along and you have an attraction and you're willing to bring real energy to it, there's no line there, is there? No. So why does everybody want a line? Then they go, oh, this is too much, too stressful. Your ego's creating that line, and your ego's giving you a stress of that line. That line your ego has decided to have is the stress you have. To feel that anything could come along one day and blow your mind, and you find yourself participating in it and growing and loving it. That can happen at any second, at any age. And why it's not happening is because the ego has drawn a line, feels a lot of stress, but you never suspect it's that you have created that line that's creating the stress. You have. Nobody else has. You have. And so if you're locked up in your head and thinking, that, all that leads to is that you doubt everyone. You doubt enlightenment, you doubt your guru, you doubt your friends, you doubt everything. And you're unable to act and follow any attraction. You're unable to be informed by that you are going to die. So what are you going to do in between, the period that you got here and the period that you're going to get out of here? What are you going to do? You got to follow it, the real attraction. And if you have a line, well, I go to work and I come home, that's enough, and I'm all stressed out by that, so far, okay. If that's it, and then you say, well, I don't know why I'm unsatisfied. I've been on the spiritual path forever, I'm getting nowhere. Because you have created your own line, that's your own stress, and you're unwilling to follow any attraction and put some energy into it because you have decided that you don't want to participate in your own life more than that. You have decided that. So somehow, when you're in a social relatable field at work, you go, oh, nothing to do with love and enlightenment here. I don't know why you have created that line. When I was my son, I used to go to art school and was relatable and felt the divine there as my life and self, and I didn't feel it was separate, and I didn't feel I was losing my love and capacity to live and recognize the divine because I was at school doing art. And there's a whole bunch of egos seeking artistic fulfillment and looking at that instead of like, man, I love going out and trying to draw a tree. That's wonderful. Trying to figure out how they're going to be successful and wonderful. And yet, how do you do it without really having to put that much into it too? That's part of the ego trip, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't have to put that much into it. You don't have to love it so much that you're always doing it, do you?
It's the crabby ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you do. Anything you love really comes to that. Whether it's a person, whether it's art form, whether it's a sport, whether it's enlightenment, it always comes to that. Where it takes over your whole life. It always comes down to that. So in your service, if that's what you say is important, then it does. And in it, you have to get better and better at it and become more and more sensitive to the one you're serving. So, in meditation. How can you sit and have just a mediocre, boring meditation where you haven't really lived in your heart? How can you do that? And how can you have another one like that? So just think of something you really like. Like, I love chocolate chip ice cream. So I'm not buying the crappy chocolate chip ice cream. I'm going to buy the good. Well, that's good. You love something. But if you say you love meditation, then you have to have the best quality. And how do you get the best quality?
Give everything.
Yeah. So you're willing to drive all the way to Visalia and down the hill to get the best chocolate chip ice cream. You're willing to bring your cooler so it stays on the hot days, doesn't all melt by the time you get back. And then when you come back, you're willing to run to the house to put it in the freezer so it doesn't melt. But then you sit down and meditate and you're like, ooh, still 10 minutes left. Well, obviously you have no passion for meditation whatsoever. Why do it? You're not going to get anything out of it unless you have that kind of dedication and passion. Why bother? In fact, I think it's an insult to meditation to do it like that. Why bother bother to take a bad photo? Why bother to do anything badly day in, day out for years and years? Why bother? Obviously, it's not for you. Right? Obviously. So you can say, well, I want enlightenment, so I have to meditate, don't I? You might want to look at that another way. I would say meditation is not for you. But if you have an idea that your ego informs, like, well, if I meditate every day, I'll eventually get there, no matter how much it's not for me and how much I don't bring anything to it, I'm entitled to it. No. If you eat the bad ice cream, not the good chocolate chip, you're still just having the bad chocolate. It's not going to turn somewhere along the line like, wow, you ate all the bad chocolate chips, so you get the same satisfaction as eating the good chocolate chip. It's not going to happen. So you can say, what does he mean? Was she saying I shouldn't meditate anymore? I'm saying you decide. You decide. Because just putting it time in and never really showing up for it and struggling to show up for it and loving it and then showing up for it more because you love it, if you're not having that process, well, you might decide like meditation is not for me. I can't tell you everything that's for you. You have to find out. You have to fight for and care about something. So what are you willing to care for? Well, here's the line she gives, and I'm going to react to that line, and I'm going to say all the right things and look right, but I'm actually going to, only do this much. That's what you're willing to do. Fake it. You're willing to fake it, not actually make it. But why be willing to fake something if you're not actually making it? What kind of satisfaction can you have in that? You're just going to have stress. That's all. And I can relieve you of that stress by... You can just telling you what I'm telling you tonight. If meditation is not for you, then it's not for you. It's fine. If you still want enlightenment, then you're going to have to figure out another way. And what's that way? Well, that's what you have to care about, enlightenment enough. But it's not going to another guru and reading other books and saying, guess what? Now I'm doing Kundalini breathing. It's not that. It's taking what I've shown you, given you, the instruction I've helped you with, to be informed, to take all that and actually use it now. Instead of saying, here's the good information, and I'll pretend I can go around and spout all this good information and look good, but my actual participation and how much I'm willing to actually put in never has any satisfaction in it. And the lack of satisfaction is the stress that weighs on me, because the stress is there because no satisfaction. If the satisfaction was there, there'd be no stress, or hardly any at any time. It would just be the stress of following your next impulse and how you're attracted to it and how it's bringing you into this understanding. And then you find yourself spontaneously meditating, naturally meditating. And then sometimes you might even formally sit. You find yourself doing japa all the time. You find yourself, the room fills up with divine brightness. And you know that that's the condition everyone is in, that you're in that you are that. And that begins to live you more and more. So where's the dissatisfaction? Where's the stress? But somewhere along the line, you can't just say, well, here's the rules, she gave them to me, and I spout them, and then I just go about. Nothing. It's just kind of in a stasis rut, right? So, she went through the same thing. Like when I said, no service, what's going on with you? And she just wanted to look spiritual to everybody. And she wanted to copy my life in some way and show people she could do that better than them. And that was spiritual. So obviously she just cared about social ego more than the actual real satisfaction of what a process is, whether it's a process of painting or meditation or service or a spiritual process. So if all you ever care about is being social and having a buzz hit from somebody else or a sexual hit or emotional hit, well, go out and have a lot of friends. No, keep doing it and generating and see if you get better at it and seeing if you're having more fun. But if you're not having more fun, then you might say, oh, I don't know, this is for me, right? So to have that kind of self-responsibility, instead of giving it to me all the time, and then taking what I say and making it to some kind of rules that are difficult and impossible, and somehow your failure is my responsibility, no, I'm not buying that. It's just
because you don't want to do it.
it's just because you don't want to do it. It's fine. Like I said, I appreciate that you're my circle and that you support my circumstance so I can be who I am, live here and stay here, and transmit this and give this understanding, and in any ways I can do that work, I'm happy to do it. And I'm happy that you're here to give me a relatable field to help me stay here to do that. I appreciate that. But for your own enlightenment and your own love, be informed by my words and my lifestyle and my transmission, but also be informed by your own death and what are you willing to do. So if anybody feels like, oh, my job's stressful, this is stressful, this is stressful, this is stressful, so because you haven't brought enlightenment to it. And why is everything stressful? The line's too low and everything's falling apart all the time. If people were really, if everyone showed up at their job and tried to do better and better at it, imagine what your jobs would be like.
More simple, more clear.
Yeah.
Get more done.
Get more done, get
More
good stuff.
respectful.
Yeah.
Respectful of everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be kind of
Mm-hmm.
maybe like 150%
More
better,
fun,
huh?
more fun.
Yeah.
More fun.
We'd actually look forward to
more
going
fun.
there,
Yeah,
and yeah. Why does everybody want to retire?
Because they're burnt out from the stress they create by their low line.
Then open the window.
They blame everyone
Yeah.
else. And then
Yeah, everybody is being blamed because you feel unsatisfied. But there's nothing stopping you from being satisfied, except you. So maybe you're not the next Pablo Picasso. Maybe you're just somebody who likes to draw, and then other people like it and say, can I buy it? And you do more, and other people say, would you do one for me? I'll pay you $50. And then before you know it, you have $1,000 a month to count on. That you have a hobby that's turned into generating some really good income from you. And you keep learning how to do it better. Does everybody see the ego trip is like, if I'm not like Pablo Picasso and that famous and that recognized, I'm not doing it. It's too much stress to do this. But if you love something, why is it a stress? What are you going to do? So you look at that mountain and you go, oh, I always wanted to go up there, but it's too hard. I'm old. I'm young. I'm too busy. I don't have the right shoes, blah, blah, blah. But what if you just had to go up there and do it? And you did it and you said, I want to do another one. That's what happens. So if you have gotten anywhere with anything in life, you had to get to the next one. But no one's gotten there with meditation, so I don't know about meditation for you guys. I mean, you can make up your own minds about that. But what have you been willing to do because you've been attracted beyond that low line of being mediocre and settling and just getting by and that? What have you been willing to do? If you let all your spiritual competitive ideas die, and who you are and what satisfies you will become spiritualized by your willingness to generate your own experience, to be responsible in it. You will become a deeper person, a more capable person. Instead of being in competition over a pork roast or something. That's so silly, you know? Look at all the things I've done. I'm in my 50s, and now I'm in my 60s, and, you know, because it's me, you know? It's what I can do based on, I haven't drawn the ego line that you've drawn. I'm not doing anything to look better to you guys or get famous for. I'm doing stuff because I find it amazing, you know, to do it and to enjoy it. And if anybody can say, wow, that's kind of cool, then I'm glad they're enjoying it. But if they didn't enjoy it, I don't think I'd stop doing it because of that. I think I just stopped doing it because it was dead. The body was dead. And I might do it afterwards because I see Arida and we do art together. So. And it's blast. So it's never going to end till what? Here's a creative avatar, and I'm a creative spiritual master, and it's never going to end because that's our aspect. The same way what your aspect is. But you're always just, putting your toe in, and then your ego judges, is it worth it? Am I getting it? Do I look good? And so then you took your interpretation of how big my life is and made a small little life in reflection of it. And I'm not asking you to do that. See, I love meditation. I was 18, I'd sit up in the attic and meditate. To me, everything's meditation. So, I have to force my thoughts because otherwise I'm not here very much. I want to do stuff. I don't want to just sit. I want to do stuff. I'm an artistic master, so I want art. I want to be around art. I want to play with art. I want to do art. I want to see other art. I want to, have connection with people who love art, and I'm participating. And I want to show them how to generate it as a means of complete freedom, complete truth, complete love. And, show them how to keep the ego out of it. How to play in it without ego.